Welcome to the Cookies and Coffee Podcast. My name is Cale Owen.
And my name is Maggie Owen. I am the VP of Operations and Cale is the CEO. And together we run 2 8-figure businesses and we are in the middle of building a startup.
And this podcast is to document our journey as high-level executives, as parents, and as husband and wife, so that we can share what's working for us, what we found that doesn't work, lessons, tips, and tricks, so that if you are married and working together or want to do that, you can learn from what has worked for us and for many other people so that you can have an incredible marriage, an incredible business, and an incredible life. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's rock this out. Today, we're going to talk about how do you, as a married couple and then also in business, how do you work through times when life feels blah, when things are not fun at all. Everything seems hard, everything. And you get to a point where you feel indifferent to almost anything. So you don't find joy in really anything. Food doesn't taste that great. Time with your spouse is not like it maybe was or felt during those times. Times with the kids are really, really hard. Business just feels like you're scrambling every day just to stay in the same spot, or maybe you're feeling like you're failing every day and you're just overwhelmed like constantly.
Yeah.
You know, how do we approach that? Because right now you're in that. I've been in that before and you're in that stage right now. And I feel like it's a valuable thing for people to understand. And it's good for us to just talk through in a way.
Yeah. I think usually whenever I get to this point, which like doesn't happen often when I do get to this point, I think you too, it's like, usually it comes at the time when we have the most overwhelm and things like the kids are really like, it's back to school. They're both playing sports. Our son's playing 2 sports. It's like, it's just like every night of the week is a sport really right now for like practice during the week. And then the weekends are their games. So then our weekend, like family time is not the same anymore. Like that's disrupted. Work's really busy right now because we're going through like a lot of transitions. We're traveling a ton, some together and like some apart. Like, and so it's just, there's a lot going on in like personal, professional, and our relationship. And usually for me, that's usually most times where just like, it's like you're going through the motions. It's like, okay, I just have to survive because I feel like I'm going through the motions in like every area right now. And so normally I feel like work was really stressful, or not even stressful. Like there's just a lot going on. Like it's a busy season. Let's say like normally you and I wouldn't be like in a huge travel season also at the same exact time, which then just like couples that with stress. And then also starting school and this, like that couples that and adds that on top too. And so I think usually for me, when I start to feel like that, it's like, okay, I just need to like buckle up, put my big girl pants on and just like go through the motions. But then like mentally, it becomes really hard because I'm like, this is not, I don't find joy in anything I'm doing because I'm just going through the motions every day.
Because you want to find meaning in what you're doing. You want to have meaning or purpose or feel like you're accomplishing something. Is that why?
I don't even think it's that really, honestly. It's like, because I think you can do things without me. Like I want to know, I think always at the top, like our values are aligned of like where we want to go as a couple, how we want to raise our kids. Like we're always aligned in that. And so I think it's just like knowing that like when this task is done, there's another task and then that task is, so it's like normally I'm a very in the moment person. I'll be like, oh, I'll be in this moment. Like I'll be at the kids practice. I'm like, okay, this hour, I'm like really in the moment with the kids and I really enjoy it. And then I know like when I get home, I'll be in the moment of whatever the next thing is, like just like very in the moment. But when there's so much going on, I'm just thinking about the next thing that I have to do always.
Which creates like you mentioned this the other day kind of, and I've gone through this a lot, where you just feel like you're in a fog.
Right.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on that it's hard to cut through the fog of all of the overwhelm, of the stress, of the constantly going, and have clarity on what's happening right now and what needs to happen, and to find peace and joy in that moment.
Yeah.
So how do you find that? How do you work through that? Because this isn't the first time, right?
Yeah.
It's happened to me before too. And I'm trying to think through like, when does that happen?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things that and actually this kind of like developed over time. Like before, I feel like I would sit in it a lot longer. I'd get really frustrated with you. I would like take not even like resentment. It was just like, I would want everyone else to also be miserable. Like I'm feeling not great. So like you should also not feel great. Mm-hmm. And I think now making sure I try to think through like, okay, well, what's causing this feeling? And like, is this temporary? So I just try to like rationalize in my head, like, is this temporary? Yes, it is. It is. Most of the time it's temporary, whatever, I know work is like, we're in a season right now and there's light at the end of the tunnel. And it's like, we're going to get this, a new employee in, they're going to help, they're super high level. And so like, that's going to really help. Like, I know it's a season that I'm in right now for this. I know the kids are in a season. With the kids, I kind of just try to remind myself like that this isn't going to be like this forever. And so I want to enjoy it while I can. So I think that's like one thing, just thinking through like, because I had all the range of emotions over the last couple of weeks of like, what's the point of all of this? Why are we doing anything? Why am I working? Just like a whole range of emotions. I feel so discontent with everything that I'm doing that I'm like, I just was like, it all feels pointless. Like, so I'm just going to quit everything. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not a great train of thought to do that. So then I try to take a step back and just think through like, okay, this doesn't serve me. I know it's hard right now. So like, what are the things that if everything feels hard, like what are the small wins that I can do? Like, what can I make sure I do? So like, I haven't really been working out right now, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to at least get 10,000 steps in a day. It's like, even though I'm not still training or I haven't for like the past couple of weeks, I'm going to make sure that I at least still am active in some way. So it's like, that feels really hard to me right now. So I'm not going to try to do like 2 really hard things and then just not do any of it. I'll just pick one of them and just like do the work, even though I don't want to. Just do it, make it happen. And like giving myself like little wins, like where are little wins that I can get to like kind of slowly climb out of it.
Yeah. How long have you noticed over time that you move out of it faster or you stay in it longer?
That's a good question. I think I move out of it faster now only because I've started to lean into it more. Like I used to think like, like what the heck is wrong with me? Like, why am I feeling like this? Like, I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate. Like I have it so much better than so many other people in the world. And like, I just should have so much more gratitude to be like, what, like thinking, wow, something is so wrong with me that I have these thoughts, right? Which like doesn't serve anything. It's like, okay, I have these thoughts. That's okay. Now, how do I like talk myself out of it? Like, what are the things that I have to do to like get out of it? So instead of trying to like shy away from it and think that something's wrong, I like lean into it and then figure out how to solve it. So I do think now I come out of it faster, mainly because I don't think I had the tools or the know-how to do it previously.
Yeah.
And I also think I would this is something through our relationship is just learning how to talk through stuff more with you and like being open and comfortable about things. Like before I would like hold on to stuff a lot longer before I would open up about it. And now I'm just like, I feel really crappy right now. Like now it's not a really great time. Like I just like feel terrible. And you're like, okay, cool. Like let's talk about it. Which I think has helped a lot, especially because I think sometimes I know like when you were going through this too, I think it was like a couple years ago, but it was like, I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? Like I would put it back on me. Like, what am I doing wrong? Why is he so unhappy? Why is he not content? Like I should be able to make sure that he's content and happy. But like at the end of the day, like it's not my job to make sure that you're happy. It's my job to support you in whatever season that you're in. And so I think that's also helped too, is like knowing that being able to open up sooner about it, about when we're feeling like this. And then knowing that like, it's okay. And I'll just like support you with where you're at right now. And if you just like need me to go on walks with you and be quiet and not talk about stuff, or you need me to like right now, I'm like, I just want to go on walks and like vent, which is probably like not very fun for you, but you do it. Like, that's how you show up and you don't even try to solve anything, right? You're like, okay, you know that you need me to listen right now. And so you're just showing up in that way. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important to know, especially because you just went on a trip, right? So you're like, okay, is she mad at me because I was gone? But I'm like, I'm actually not mad at you at all. I'm really just like honestly indifferent to everything at this point. So I'm like, it's literally not you. It's actually me. But now let's talk about it and then kind of come out of it.
And what's cool is that over time, us getting closer, us talking and us developing the relationship that we do. In the past, let's say we'd been married for a year or two, I would have not believed you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? I would have not believed that you were not upset with me.
Yeah.
I would have thought that, okay, she's just telling me that because she just wants to tell me to make me feel better about it.
Yep.
But now when you tell me that, I'm like, okay, cool. So you're not great. You're indifferent. So that means right now with what you're going through, I need to show up in other areas to help and support you in whatever way that I can, whatever's best, whether it's maybe I'm helping with the kids more, or maybe I'm just going on the walks with you and letting you vent, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's taken time too. Cause I'm very much, for me, how you are affects me.
Right.
But I've also gotten to the point now where it also is not, I've learned also, it's not my job to make you happy. It's my job to support you and to protect you and to serve you as a husband should serve a wife, and on both sides. Now, I think it's really interesting. I'm curious for you, when you go to try to solve these things, do you solve it through sitting and thinking, or do you solve it through action? What do you think has worked the best for you? Like working through the hard stuff and taking action and moving, or sitting and kind of contemplating, why is this a problem? Why do I feel this way? And thinking through it. Which one for you works better?
Yeah. I think it's a mix of both, honestly. I think that I usually do the thinking first now, of like, and I ask myself the questions of like, okay, is this leading to are these decisions, is this things that are causing me overwhelm leading to the life that I want in 5, 10, 20 years, right? When we look back when we're 80, am I going to be happy that we're doing these things now? And if the answer is yes, and I'm like, okay, then this is just a season and I need to get through it. And most of the time it is a yes. And if it's not a yes, then it's like, okay, I need to change whatever I'm doing. Like I need to get out of the situation and change something about it. Right. And so I think that's asking that question of just like, is the things that we're doing now things that are going to be leading to the life that we want? Getting anywhere that you want to get, especially at the level of like the things that we're wanting to accomplish and the goals that we have, it's going to be hard, and we're going to have seasons of stress, especially because we have 2 young kids who I feel like their personalities change like every other week at this point. It's like, it's difficult to navigate that and growing a business and trying to accomplish our goals. And so things are going to be tough, and that's okay. It doesn't mean every day is going to be like super great. But if I know that we are on the path and the course that I want to be on, then I don't have to change what I'm doing. I just need to like sit in it for a little bit and like just do the work to do the work, because that's what needs to happen.
This is what hard feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. And like, honestly, sometimes the past couple of days, actually, I'm like, you know what? I'm happy I get to feel this way, because it means that I'm doing something that's difficult and I'm going to come out stronger on the other side, whether it's in a month or 2 months or 3, whatever the time frame might be. Like I'm developing a tolerance and a threshold for hard things that's just going to make me even better as we continue to keep growing together.
That is why I love you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have that mentality.
Yeah, it's super tough. And I definitely have not always had that mentality at all. I've definitely always wanted to be like, I want the easiest way. I don't want to say like the easiest way. I just like, I've never had a problem working for things, but I didn't want to have to like push myself outside the comfort zone of like what I was doing for a long time, until I realized like, oh, I'm never actually going to get past where I'm at right now unless I lean into those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, it's very much action. But I think I take the same 2 steps. I think through it logically. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, is this going to last forever? No, I know that, because past experiences show me proof that it doesn't last forever.
Yep.
And then my past experiences also show me that for me, this is for me personally, most of the time when I feel that, it's because I was not doing the thing that I should have been doing. This is for me. Should have been doing. And the reason why I'm feeling this way is because of actions or inactions or decisions I didn't make before, which are causing me to feel this overwhelm or this stress or indifference or this lack of happiness or joy in my current circumstances. And knowing that there's freedom in that, because it's like, okay, I can own it and I can now make the changes that I need to. It's almost a catalyst for more action and more growth to work through it. Almost like, the buffalo, right? The story of, or the reason why the buffalo, most animals, they see a storm coming.
Yeah.
And they try to run away from it, when the buffalo just turn and run through it.
Yep.
And they get through it faster than the others, because they're running through it as it's coming towards them, rather than the others just running, and they get the whole thing a lot longer.
Yep.
They're running through it. And I find that to help a ton, for me at least, especially during those times when there's lots of things going on, lots of overwhelm. And while it's not fun, I also take a step back and I realize that not every day is supposed to be fun. Mm-hmm. It's reasonable to believe that 10%, 20%, 30% of our life, those days, or 30% of our days, if you count it in just days, are not going to be exceptional, life-altering days.
Yeah.
They're just going to be days, because we live a lot of days here. And there's going to be a lot of times when it's not fun. And for me, I know when I see those times, I think of, okay, let's say this week sucks. Great. 7 days. There, I knocked out 7 of my crappy days this year, right? And that means I'm closer to getting to the days when, great, this is fun. This is enjoyable. Like I can sit in the moment and I can feel momentum and going through that. I think one thing for us that is frustrating at times is that we have the ability to grow businesses and to do really cool things in business. And we currently don't own a business. And I think that leads to some envy and some stress, not stress, but just envy and discontent, because we see other people that we know that are friends and other individuals in just business period that we know don't have the ability and skill sets that we do, but they're out there building a business that frankly, they could probably take home more than we do right now.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating for sure. And
I do think that leads to a lot of the frustrations. I would say it adds to it. Like adds to the frustrations that we had.
Yeah. Because right now we're building a business for someone else right now. And there's a part of it, there's the pros and cons. The pros are we get to learn and we get paid to learn and we get to keep learning. And we're learning a new game that a lot of people don't get to learn, which is the game of private equity and larger amounts of money, greater connections in the world of business. If that was our goal, then we're moving in the right direction and we're getting paid to learn. We also get to work with an incredible team. We get to learn the ins and outs of managing multiple different companies in different areas. Like we have a service company, we have a product company, and then we have a tech company. Very few people in the world get the opportunity to get paid to build those types of businesses and to learn along the way. Most people have to start from scratch, build something, or maybe they acquire a business and they just focus on that one business. But then there's the cons of that, which are we're building someone else's business. And while we get paid very, very well for it, we also know with our skill set, we could probably make we could make a lot more money if we did our own thing. For sure. And I think the hardest part for us is the hard that we're going through now is the same hard that we would go through if it was our own business. We just know that the reward could be so much more, at least from a monetary standpoint and a time freedom standpoint. Even though right now, like we have, outside of really hard times with work and stuff, we still have a decent amount of freedom.
Yeah, we do.
So, but I think it's really important for anyone listening to understand that no matter how successful you get, no matter how high up you get, you're still going to feel the same things. It doesn't change. You're not someday just going to wake up and be like, oh, cool, I'm the CEO or I'm the COO and I'm running a $30 million business or $100 million business. And you just wake up and you're like, great, everything is amazing. That's not how it works. There's always going to be aspects of life which are going to be stressful, overwhelming, hard. Life is just going to be hard. And the sooner that, at least for myself, the sooner I accepted that, and I learn it all the time, but the sooner that I accept that, the faster I grow. And the faster I get through it.
It's interesting because I think it took me a long time to accept that things were going to be hard, because I think I would tell myself, like, I wouldn't accept that that things had to be hard. I'd be like, they just are. And so therefore we just do the work and like, it is what it is. But I think it served me in some aspects because I would just like lean into things, but then it also didn't serve me because like the mind is so powerful. Like I would still think these things, like I would still think it is hard, but I'd be like, no, I'm not telling myself, like, it's not hard. And then it's just like a battle. And then when things come up and then it does feel hard, I'm like, oh, like what's wrong with me? Why does this feel this way? And so I think for a long time I tried to be like, no, like I shouldn't have these feelings. And then I turned to, no, it's okay to have these feelings. Like, let's just like ride it out and ride through it. I think the biggest thing from a relationship standpoint that's like really served us well is like, one, building a strong foundation of trust, but also being open and communicating when we're feeling those things. And I think we didn't even like use this recently, but you actually told me something that I really, really liked that I think we should start doing. I don't even know where you got it from, but basically, you had said that there's this couple and they will say like on a scale of like 1 to 100, right? I think it was 100. Like, what do you feel? How are you feeling today? Like, what's your scale, right? And if it's like this person's an 80, it's like, okay, I'm going to show up that extra 20% extra because you're not at 100%. Or if it's like a 20, it's like, okay, like I have to pick up a ton of extra slack today. whether it's in the home or the business or whatever it is, because they're definitely not their best today. And I think that's so great. And I think, but the point of it is like, you have to be able to communicate that to your significant other. Like if you can't do that, you're never going to get to this point. And there's definitely going to be, I think you will, maybe not always, but you'll think, okay, it's me, it's my fault. And that puts like added stress on you for no reason. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just so important to talk that. And I actually think it's helped me, especially just like the past couple of weeks where I'm like, I think this is actually the first time where I've like really opened up and been like, it's literally not you. Mm-hmm. I just like, I'm going to feel this way for a little bit.
This is the first time in 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you kept business as usual. And I'm like, oh, and it was like a trigger for me of like, life continues to move on. Mm-hmm. And I have the thought process of like, well, I'm not going to move. It's not going to move on without me. Like this life and this thing that we're building is not going to move on without me. So like, I need to get my shit together and like work through it.
Yeah. I think it helps a ton. And going back to that 100, I think it's really important for people to understand that together you need to add up to 100, however that works. Yeah. And I think I get this a lot in comments, this idea in comments, and this concept of, well, what if the other person isn't willing to do that and isn't willing to help and able to, let's say, help us both get to 100.
Yep.
Like if I'm having a hard day or I feel like I'm the one that's always 90, right? What would be your advice to those people?
Well, if they're married.
Yeah, let's stick to the married side.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're married. We don't need to talk about people that are dating or anything like that.
Yeah. I would say you just have to like keep showing up consistently, like keep being the 90. Because I think somewhere, I would say more than likely, there's probably somewhere along the line over the relationship where like you've lost the trust of the other individual. And so they're not coming the other 10% or even going more than 10% because somewhere along the line you've lost the trust with that person of like, you said you were going to do something and you didn't do it. You said you were going to show up and you didn't show up for them. And so in their mind, they're like, well, I've already given them everything I have and I've gotten nothing in return from it. And so I think if you're thinking that you always go 90, I think there's a couple of things. One, maybe you actually just think that and you're actually not going 90. So maybe like evaluate that of like, what are you actually doing to show up for that other person? How are you showing up? Is it actually 90%? Or do you just think that because maybe you have an ego about it? Are you showing up the way that they actually need you to show up is the other thing too. Because I think early on in our relationship, you would show up in ways that you thought I really wanted and it wasn't anything I even cared about. So you're like, oh, well, I'm showing up for you and I'm doing these nice things. And I'm like, I don't care about these nice things. I just like need you to do this for me. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, great, I'll do that. And so it could be that too of like, well, maybe just evaluate, are you actually serving them and supporting them the way that they need to be supported? Or are you doing it how you think that they need to be supported? And then sometimes you just have to like rebuild trust and just like continue to do the work and show up. And I would say and this might not be all the time, but I would say in most cases, the other person's going to start to like see that and understand it. And they're going to want to reciprocate it back.
They should, without a doubt. I think it's important to sit down and determine what does 100 look like? You know what I mean? So like, what does 100 look like together? When we're at 100, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Does it mean that the kids are fed, the kids are taken care of, they're going to all their stuff, we both are getting what we need to do done? Like, what does that all mean? We're going on trips. We're not going on trips. We're staying at home. We're eating out. We're not eating out. Like, what does 100 look like in your relationship? And then solving for that. Because then today's really tough. I had a really long day at work and I still have more work to do. Let's say you are that way, right? Right now you're going through a time when you have a lot of work. We both do. But like mine is a little bit different. Mine's planning for stuff. Yours is now. Like it has to be now. And so if you have more work, then I can either push off my work or I have to do it in times when the kids are not up, right? And so I have to either wake up earlier and get it done. And then I need to be there so that you can get your stuff done so I can take care of them to offset that, or vice versa. Like you did when we were getting ready for GymCon. Yeah. You're like, cool, I understand that this is going to be a tough time. And we had that conversation. I was like, this is going to be hard. I'm not going to be as available because I need to get these done. I need to get these presentations and get prepared for this. Yeah. And you were like, cool, got it. And then you picked up that side of the slack.
Yep.
And I think defining that helps a ton because I think for some people, their definition of 100 is different than the other person.
Yeah.
because a wife might be, I want us to have dinner every night together at the table. I want you to come home and put your phone away. I want you to not watch TV and be present with the kids. When the husband's like, no, I worked hard today. My 100 is coming home, sitting on the couch, watching my show, drinking a beer, and just having time to just relax. Well, you have to get really clear on like what's possible in a relationship. And there's going to have to be times when on both sides, we have to take full responsibility for it and look at, okay, my job in this relationship is to serve the other person and to serve my family.
Yep.
No matter what. And you have to clearly define what that looks like. And I think once you have that, then you can solve for 100.
Yeah, for sure. Knowing that there's definitely going to be compromises along the way.
Always. And I think at the end of the day, especially for men, and I can only speak to men from my side as being a husband, you have to take full responsibility for it. Even if your spouse, your wife, in your opinion, is not, let's say you feel like you're going 90 and you feel like your spouse is only going 10 for some crazy reason, speaking to men, you have to, it is your responsibility to do everything you possibly can in your power and your control to show up constantly. You can't just do it and say, well, this person's not doing it, so therefore I'm not going to. That's not how this works. Your job is to go hard regardless. And the only thing you can control is how you show up. And I guarantee you that you will look back on your life and you will be a lot happier and you will respect yourself a lot more knowing you didn't just play the victim card and say, just because this person's not doing it, I'm not going to, and just quit.
Yeah.
Like keep showing up every single day and keep doing the things every single day that you know you need to do. You're going to make mistakes. We all do. But I know for me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to work through it and I'm going to push harder and I'm going to push harder and I'm going to push harder. It's not easy.
Yep.
But what else?
I don't have anything else.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, hope you like this. This is the kind of insight into what we're going through right now. Hope it's valuable for anyone that feels like they're struggling. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep going, communicate, talk, and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you too.